Hi, welcome to our monthly video to encourage God's purpose in our kingdom-minded women. I've got Judy McDonough here, a good friend, and I'm very blessed that she's here today to share so much insight into identity. Judy, thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Victoria.
You work at IFA right now, is that right?
Yes, Intercessors for America.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. Intercessors for America. And you're married?
I am married.
For how long now?
We've been married for 27 and a half years.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And we have 4 children.
4 children, yeah. That's awesome. So Judy, what I really want to know from you, being, as I see you, not only extremely sharp, very quick, your brain works very fast. It's awesome. But you've also got this huge heart. And I'm just wondering, was that always the way for you? I mean, did these things and this passion for Intercessors for America, I mean, was that always the case throughout your life, or what part did God play in all of that in your life? I mean, I don't know a lot about your past, so I'm really interested to hear.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about those two things, because having a big heart and then the being smart, I think you said.
Yeah.
So
highly intelligent, brilliant. Okay.
So that's my identity struggle right there. I mean, you just nailed it. And from the very beginning of my life is that having a sensitivity and feeling, wouldn't have time to get into all the things that made me feel neglected and sad and hurt and wounded. Mm-hmm. But then being very smart is what I was told.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. So my identity, as a child would have been, well, I'm not fun, I'm not cute, I'm smart. And so that's what I just thought about myself, and and had dreams about being a different way. But that's what I had.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting point, because what I'm hearing you say is, as a child, you were thirsty to hear other things about your personality, and you really were told so much that you were one thing, and that was very smart. And so you kind of grew.
Absolutely.
That grew in you, I see.
And I do think as women, we have a longing to be cherished.
Sure, absolutely.
And to be the beauty, that desire for beauty, I think, is ingrained in us, to be thought beautiful. And I don't know why I wanted to be fun, but I always wanted to be a fun person. And many years ago, but many years after I was a child, I was in my 20s, one of my uncles said, Judy and fun, those are always in the same sentence.
Absolutely.
So
that must have gone right to your heart.
It did. And it also told me that my view of myself wasn't accurate. So, and I think that's probably very true about identity, is that it's an inaccurate view of yourself.
I agree with you.
So what's so great about what God's done in my life is that drive to achieve, to make the most of what I had.
Yeah.
Took me to college, to law school. And then in a series of miraculous events and unlikely events, I ended up in Christian ministry, which is where I longed to be.
Okay.
And then that has been part of healing my identity. So it's really been beautiful.
But were you always a believer?
Well, no. I was always in church. I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
And I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
I was in church every Sunday and Holy Day of Obligation.
Yeah, me too.
And I never doubted that Jesus was God.
Right.
So I always had an orthodox view of things.
Right.
But, a personal relationship was lacking, but even more that, for me, lordship. Like, who's going to be in charge? Which is funny, because I had a very a very strong-willed personality, a very strong-willed nature. And my oldest sister, the thing I said to her most often was, "You're not the boss of me." So for me, lordship was a huge issue. Okay. And it was when I was studying for the bar exam, over my bar books, that I suddenly got it. And back then there were these bumper stickers that said, "God is my co-pilot." And I'm sitting there studying, and that came into my mind. He's not a co-pilot.
Wow.
He wants to be the pilot.
Wow.
So I said, "Okay, Lord, I'm going to get in the back seat, and I want you to drive this car that's my life."
I love the way the Lord opens our understanding, and just kind of implants or uses what's going on around us and impresses it in a moment.
I do
for
too.
Such a revelation that you just had, because what a revelation, right? I mean, I remember I used to always say Jesus is in the back seat. I've got Jesus, he's in the back seat, and I had to put him in the front seat.
He wants to be in the front seat.
Yeah.
So
what happened then once he became in the front seat?
I started praying every day, "Lord, take control of my life," which I've often said I didn't know any better.
I was going to say, because that's a pretty hefty prayer to pray.
It's pretty intense.
It's perfect for you, actually.
Well, and that, talk about identity. So I do want to address that. I was very much a striver. And achievement-oriented perfectionist. And so even that prayer shows that I was not healed in an instant of that. I thought, I'm going to be the best Christian there ever was.
Right.
And so I took all that striving and tried to Christianize it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not part of the story of working. But I think that's an important part of my story.
Yeah, it really is, because it's like with anybody's traits that God's given them. I think when we allow the enemy to run with them, they go on the side of bad. So the striving can be bad, but it's the striving also, to some degree, in a healthier way, that wanted you to, made you want to give yourself strive for the Lord. It just kind of jumped ship.
It's absolutely. I think that's so true, and I think we see a lot in the world of this, where you have a gift that is unredeemed, and it's powerful, but for evil. So I really wanted to serve the Lord. So I had a job with a law firm, and I was saved. That was July. Took the bar exam in Los Angeles, and where I was going to work because I had a job.
Wow.
And the day after the bar exam, they called me and said, "We hired too many lawyers." So I lost my job before so at first I was shaken, and then I realized, oh, Lord, take control of my life. But I do have a sense of humor, and I said, "Okay, Lord," I said, "take control, not seize control."
Yeah, right.
So I think the Lord has a sense of humor too.
Did you, I mean, was it that easy for you to just go, "Okay, Lord, I realize"?
It took about an hour. It was that, and that's a mercy.
But see that, yes, it is mercy, but I think it's also that thing that he put in you from the seed that he put in you from the get-go of wanting. I mean, like you said, you had intelligence, you had striving, and you also had a heart. You were sensitive, I think is the word you used. And all that comes out with you being able in 1 hour to intellectually realize that that's the smartest thing to do, and with your heart, for it to come through and to make that choice. Anyway, that's really beautiful.
So I got a job at a nonprofit. They got me a job at a nonprofit. And I did that for 1.5 years, and then I felt the Lord say, "You're done here." So I quit. I didn't have another job. But my sister met a guy at church. She was she was visiting, and she went to this Good Friday kids church service.
Oh my God.
And met this guy, and he said he worked for the Christian Action Council, and she said, "Are you hiring lawyers?" And he said, "Yeah, we're looking for a female lawyer." And when I had the first interview, I said, "I'm perfect for that job." And that was good. That was the Holy Spirit and the Spirit in me saying, okay. So then I worked for the Lord, and then I found, I don't know how long into it, that months earlier I had journaled, Lord, I just want to work for you all day long. I want to serve you all day long. And he's so good to us.
Yes, he is.
And I loved that. I've loved working in Christian ministry.
Yeah, yeah. And then how did you come to IFA then?
So I worked there at CareNet, a network of Christian crisis pregnancy centers, pro-life pregnancy centers. And then I always say I started my own little pro-life ministry. I had 3 kids in 3 years. So I worked part-time from home for 1 year.
Okay.
But when I had 2, I couldn't do that. So when the third was first grade, I thought I need a job. But then I got pregnant again. So the fourth came. And when he was in first grade, my oldest was a senior in high school.
Wow.
So it was time to get a job. Along all those years, 18 years, I would think, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But then I'd think, God got me my last job. He's going to get me my next job.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I did look for work and I started substitute teaching, not knowing. But I was in a Celebrate Recovery step study, which I like to mention because I highly recommend them.
Absolutely.
And I think, and that was part of my journey of healing.
Yeah.
God really used Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah, it's a terrific program.
And it's not just for addicts.
Yeah.
For me, that performance-oriented, codependent, striving.
It's an addiction.
Yes. People pleasing. So she said, my sponsor said, do you write and edit? Do you have experience with that? Yes, I do. And so I interviewed with Intercessors for America and got the job. And what's been so beautiful is that it has grown with me as my kids have moved off and on, and my youngest has gotten older. I've been able to take more responsibility. And it's been incredible to serve the Lord.
Yeah,
Didn't
just
know
like you.
that would happen again.
Yeah.